How are you, Hunter? I was like, I haven't seen you in years. It's good to, your skin is shining. You look good. You look good.
Thank you. Thank you
Oh,
very much. Tell me
oh.
more. Tell me more. No,
I'm like, the plants are growing. Okay, Hunter. Okay.
I know I got a mustache now
I
since you told me.
know.
And
I'm here for it.
yeah,
I'm here for the growth and evolution. I'm not mad.
thank you so much. Thank you. Well, that's what we're going to be talking about today too. How are you? What's been going on in the past 2 years?
Working, trying to survive and exist. Had a baby. So yeah.
You had a baby?
I had
Congratulations.
a whole human, which is probably a separate master class, but yes, yes. Parenthood is a hood. So yeah.
Wow. What's your child's name?
Her name is Adela.
Adela.
Yeah.
Oh, so
Yeah.
sweet. How old is she
Thank
now?
you. 10 months. 10
Oh wow,
months.
yeah,
Yeah.
congrats, congrats.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. Yeah.
So
Yeah.
well, you can also, I know there's a lot of moms listening too, so there's a lot to talk about.
Moms, birthing people, parents, somebody raising a kid. Parenthood is a hood. That's what I have learned. That's the cliff note. Yeah. So I see you and I send you light and love and sleep. But yes.
Yeah. Sleep. Yeah, if
Sleep.
only, right? If
Yeah.
only.
Yeah.
Oh boy. So tell me a bit about for folks that maybe this is the first time that are meeting you, tell me a little bit about Lexi, what you're up to, and how you got to where you are now.
Yeah. So my name is Lexi B. I live in Oakland, California. I'm originally from St. Louis, Missouri. And I tell people my identity. I'm a dark skinned Black woman whose ancestors come from the history of enslaved West Africans in this country, because Black is not a monolith. And my corporate job is I'm currently the principal technical program manager for all of AI safety and security at Microsoft. And so that's a very sexy title. And basically, what that means is that I lead a team of strategy and operations folks, and we are operationalizing, technical program managing all of our projects and programs that come into this flow of my executive vice president, who runs AI safety and security. So making sure that all of Microsoft's AI products are safe first and foremost, which is different than secure, but that they are
Mm,
both, and that we are not causing harm in this world. We also do a lot of thought leadership around AI safety, considering what's happening in the world. AI is growing so quickly, and just making sure that AI can be good, but it needs to be safe. And what happens when people build AI products without safety in mind. I've been doing this for a long time. I'm not new to this, Hunter. As you know, I have been in tech my
mm.
whole career and have worked at major companies, in rooms trying to solve very hard problems, whether it's EU hate speech or what does it look like, for criminal activity in Airbnbs, all the way to working for Twitter, before Elon came, and really focusing on all that stuff like the insurrection and George Floyd's murder on the platform and things like that. So it's been a very interesting corporate journey. Yeah.
Yeah, to say the least. Well, thank you for sharing that insight into your own story, your background,
Yeah.
the context. There's a lot going on there. And I'm curious, like you said, you're not new to this tech space. What were you doing before the AI boom in the tech space?
Well, I think that you have to first decide what is the AI boom, right? So my first understanding and play with AI, and this is 2018, I joined Facebook. I joined the Facebook legal team. And I joined to basically operationally lead EU hate speech. At the
Mm.
time when I was in the interview, I really didn't understand why, but it sounded really, really cool. And they gave me a really good check. So I showed up on time. But what I learned very quickly as I started talking to people and figuring out from historical perspective why certain words in the EU and in certain spaces in the EU, this is considered a derogatory word, which really comes from historical context. We were actually training models. Facebook is a huge platform. And there's a lot of people who work on Facebook. So there's no way that we can have humans go through people's Facebook data and be like, "Ooh, Hunter said a bad word and it's so bad that we need to take it down." Right? Or it's so bad that we need to actually call law enforcement. And so they were training models on EU hate speech, because in order to make these AI models, you have to train them. I always use a really great example of when Facebook was creating, what they, and I haven't been there for a while, but what they used to call Oculus and things like that. They were actually training models to understand what a human looks like. And so to do that, they had the people on the team go home and take pictures of humans, right?
Hmm.
Like show us a picture of your family portrait, show us a picture of your kid playing basketball, because the model needs to understand that a human is not a perfect family portrait, but a human could be crouched down, a human could be laughing, a human could be crying. So imagine if you do that and to bring in diversity into play, and everyone on your team is a certain color. And so therefore the model thinks that a human is only one color because it doesn't have enough data to understand that humans come in all shapes and sizes and all colors. So imagine if you fed the model all people with straight hair, the model would not identify a person with curly hair as a human. So you have to train these models. It does take a lot of time. And then even after you put the model out into the world, you're still training it. So my job was to really figure out how are we going to train these models to understand EU hate speech. So therefore, when hate speech is on the platform, we can take action on it. We take action, we don't take action, or for some situations, we are legally liable to call law enforcement. And so that was the first time that I was playing with AI, and I wasn't really playing with the model. I was giving information for people to train the model. It wasn't until
Mm.
September 2023 when I joined Microsoft in my current role where it was like, oh, this is a very, very big deal. And what these models can do on one hand is impressive, and on the other hand can be very scary if not used correctly. So yeah.
Yep. Yeah, yeah, yeah. So how does that relate to you for helping people find their why? So, because I imagine we have to start with ourselves, right?
Yeah.
So, in I can maybe infer, but I would love to hear from you. What is your why in what you do and why you're doing it?
Yeah, so actually let's start to I think us as children. I think that I had to learn in my 20s was that this whole idea that work is the most important thing in your life is actually complete bullshit. Full stop. And I
Mhm.
think that we have this very interesting PR campaign in Western culture and capitalism, and I think it's there in order for people to work and make more money for a small group of very financially powerful people. If you
Mhm.
want to know more about that, while I was pregnant, I actually watched this amazing documentary on Hulu talking about the men who created America. And I highly recommend that because it all came, I was like, oh, this is why we do this, right? Of really
Mhm.
understanding there's this like oligarchy of power of this small group of people who make a lot of money and a whole group of people who help make them richer. And that's why
Yep.
the PR campaign is there. Like, work is so great. What is your dream? And so in my 20s, I went to Stanford, and this little black girl from St. Louis, everyone was like, you should be so elated. And for the record, college was great. Love college, enjoy college, right? Many things happened in college that we probably should not talk about on a recording, but good times, good times. And then I graduated from college and I was very lucky to have a job in the tech space. And so then
Yeah.
everybody was like, you should just feel so good. And I was like, I feel horrible. I'm depressed. I do not know how to adult. No one told me how to do a taxes. Like, what is going on? Um,
Right.
I don't know
Working
how to
probably
make
bananas
friends.
hours, right?
Right,
You
like, I don't know
Yeah.
what's going on, and so
Yeah.
I worked at NetApp for 4 years, and I felt very crappy because everything I did everything in the world in a capitalist definition right to be fulfilled, and I'm
Mm.
completely unfulfilled. And so in my
Mm.
late 20s, when I was transitioning from NetApp to Airbnb, I met this guy who was a financial advisor because my money was horrific, Hunter. And I thought I was going to come in to learn about budgeting. And this man sat me down on a whiteboard and he said, forget money. What do you want your life to look like? And it was the first time in my entire life that someone actually asked me that. And I said,
Mm.
well, I want a good job and I want this title. And Davey looked at me and said, no, I'm not talking about that. What do you want your life to look like? And what he was doing is he was requiring me to name my why. Why do I
Mm.
go to work every day? What am I getting out of this practice of going to work? Even if I hate my job on the short term, is what I'm getting from this job aligning to my overall why? And at 26, after doing all this work of like, do you want to live in a penthouse in New York? Do you want a 2-bed, 3-bath in Memphis? Both of them are lovely if that's what you want. They both cost different things. So he's coming from a financial standpoint of
Mm.
like, Lexi, stop trying to just make more money. Why do you need this money? And what I learned from that exercise was not only great financial advice, but,
Mm,
oh, I need to start preparing for what I want my life to look like right now. And
mm,
therefore, how I act at work, who I work for, and what company I work for and what that company can give me should all align to my long term why. And I do not think that we as people think about that. I do not think, especially as Black bodies in capitalism, we think about that because of our trauma of the historical context of what enslavement did to us physically,
mm,
mentally, emotionally. And so, I think it's really important to have those conversations. You should be building a career not based on the sexy title, not based on the work, but what does this work? What does this title? What do these perks do for you and your long term and short term why? So, for
mm,
example, it is completely okay to go get a job at a company that gives you 1 year of maternity or paternity leave if you're trying to have a baby.
mm,
That is completely okay.
mhm.
I use babies as an example, not because I want everyone to birth. It is your body and do what you want with it. Also, remember, parenthood is a hood. They don't tell you that in sex ed. But it's just such a great black and white example for people that are struggling to get pregnant, if that's what they want to do. For people who are not struggling to get pregnant, but are in same sex relationships or queer identified relationships, and they just need some extra help to make that human. There are companies out there that have better fertility benefits than others.
Yeah.
Full stop. And so now that I'm older and wiser, whenever I do career counseling, I tell people, forget this job. What do you want in the next 3 years? And what from that you want, how does it align to your overall why? Right?
Mm,
So if you want a baby, I actually don't think that you should be going to this company. They have no fertility benefits. Their mat leave is 2.5 days. This is whack. Don't go there. Right? Because these are the
yeah.
things that you need to think about when you become a parent. And fun fact, when you have great benefits as a parent, you really don't care whether you bag and chapstick at Walgreens or whether you're the CMO. You're like, I just need the space and the benefits to create this human and to make sure I get this human earthside without me dying in the process, and then try to learn how to keep this human alive. Right? If you're looking for advancement in money, I always tell people, do not tell me you want more money. It's a capitalist society. Of course, you want more money, but what are you doing with that money? The number of times that I have met people who are like, I am at this job because they're paying me this much. And on this date in 2 years, I'm paying all my student loans off with that. That's a good why. Because here's the
Mm,
thing about capitalism, it is going to inherently piss you off. Capitalism is infuriating, right? And as a person who I'm like, we all just need to be anti-capitalist and like live in a forest, but I live in a capitalist society, right? Is that you have to figure out how to work within it and you have to figure out what you can juice out of it to get to your overall liberation. And I do not think that people are thinking about capitalism that way yet. And strategically, they're thinking from the lens of, well, Uncle so and so at, the Sunday dinner says I have a good job. And so I
mhm.
want to change that narrative.
Yeah. Yeah. When you move to the forest, can I come? Because that's my
Of
vibe.
course. Of course. Of course. Yeah.
Thank you so much. Yeah. Clearly, I would love to just hang out in the woods because
Right. And just be
here we
left
are.
alone.
Yeah,
Yeah,
exactly. Like we're both surrounded by plants. I think we're like
exactly.
giving
Just like, leave
ourselves
me alone.
away.
Leave me alone. Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah, just I'll just see you across from the river and we'll be good. We'll be good.
Yeah.
We'll be
Exactly. Exactly. Yeah.
so how did you so I love the story of like the mentor that you sat down, you thought you were gonna have one conversation, and then it set you on a path that sounds like it changed your whole perspective.
It changed my whole life. It really my whole
Yeah,
life. It
yeah.
changed how I approached work. And remember, I met this man in my 2 week break between one company to another. So it
Wow.
wasn't like, oh, I'm gonna go just like not go to that new company. But I remember when I walked into that company on the first day, how I just worked differently. I
Mm,
just worked differently because I was like, I have to pay my rent. I have to be here. It was Airbnb. And for the record, I had a wonderful time at Airbnb. But let me tell you, the types of projects that I worked on, anytime that I got a say in what I wanted to do in that building, it was all based on my why. And for the record, there's many times at work that you don't get a choice in what you're working on. But
right.
anytime that I had a choice, it was always based on my why. Looking at my 401k, when you like put your 401k in a system, it was always based on my why. I would even
Mm.
argue dating.
Oh
Before
yeah.
I had this conversation with this person, I was having a great time dating, but I was not meeting anyone for a long-term engagement. And I
Mhm.
remember after that conversation, because of my long-term why, and because I wanted a long-term partner, he looked at me and said, "Well, if you want a long-term partner, and if this is your why and this is your timeline, girl, you need to go get that human like now." Right? And I was like, "You right. You right." And so even how I dated in the world was different. And to be frank with you, I remember I had this conversation in March. And I won't say what year, I'm not gonna date myself, but I actually had my first date with my now husband in June.
Oh,
Yeah.
wow. There you
Yeah.
go.
And it was funny because the date, hate to take romance out of it, but the date, almost felt like a job interview because I walked in and I was like, "So what are your long-term goals? What are your short-term goals? What are we doing? What are we doing? Dead, right?" And, I
Yeah.
call it our pre-date because then we got through that, and
Yeah.
then we actually went on another date, and we actually had fun and, like, got to know each other, but it was
Right.
just so liberating to and he wasn't the first date that I went on since that conversation, but since that conversation, the dating that I had was even more intentional, right?
Mm.
So, having that conversation with yourself, having mentors, having people in your life, finding a financial advisor because finances are a big part of this, but really like narrowing down why are you at this company? And frankly, it's not because of your title. It's not.
Right.
And it's right, it's not. So if you're at this company to have this sexy title because your long-term why is to get an even bigger title, and for whatever reason, that's the trajectory, great. But now when I mentor people, even people that work for me, when we're having one-on-one career conversations, I'm always like, what is your why? How can I help you get to your why? How can I help you get to your liberation? Yeah.
And for you now, I imagine your why has changed in these
Yeah.
different points in your life. And how do you reassess? How do you get in alignment? How do you figure out what your new why is, or if your why is the same but different?
Evolved. Right.
Yeah.
So I feel like my foundational why is definitely the same, but yeah, like getting married and like buying a home and like having a baby dragon from Wakanda disguised as a little girl, like that definitely evolves the why. Um, but when I tell you that every day when I go to work, virtually or in person, the decisions I made are based on my long-term goal. And so
Mm.
people always ask me, "What is your why?" And now that I'm a mom, I'll be very transparent. I want my baby dragon from Wakanda, disguised as a little girl. I want her to wake up one day and be like, "I wanna be a paleontologist tomorrow and be able to go do a dig in Australia. And then on Tuesday, I wanna be an astronaut. And so we're
Mm.
going to space." And I wanna be in a position that I'm like, "Bet, let's go." So now my why is really how can I support her to continue dreaming and to
Mm.
not become 18 and say, "Okay, dreams are dead."
Right.
If you wanna become an Olympic athlete at 25, now sis, I'm not saying it's gonna work out, but I fully support trying to get you there, and that is my family's why. I also think I'll be very transparent. I think as a Black woman, as a woman whose ancestry, comes from enslaved West Africans, it's really decoupling myself from capitalism, and it's twisted because in order to decouple myself from capitalism, I have to make enough money so where I can decouple. So another good
Right.
example of my why is that I told this financial advisor that at 26, I was like, "What does it look like for me never have to work again?" And he crunched the numbers, and the first thing he said was, "Forget a number, you always have to work in tech."
Hmm.
Because at the time, he was like, "The job that you have, you can work in other industries. You're not going to make as much money. You will make the fastest amount of money if you stay in tech." So
Mhm.
again, a lot of people that I meet on the internet and when I do speaking engagements, they have these very interesting misconceived notions about my career and where I've worked, which that is, open knowledge on the internet. And they think that I'm like targeting major tech brands. And I always tell people like, no, at 26, I decided that I want to as much as possible stay in tech. because I would like some generational wealth. I do want RSUs. And so I don't target major brands. I actually target managers. And it just so happened the managers that I wanted to work for worked at those companies. But don't get it twisted. Like, I don't see myself leaving this industry anytime soon because I've yet to find another industry that will give me the financial package that I
Yeah.
get in the technical field. And
Mhm.
having that financial package happens to actually feed my foundational why.
How did you find those managers? How did you know that's the person I want to go work for?
You have to network, you have to meet people. So number one, to meet them, you have to go meet them. And this is pre-COVID. So I've been very blessed to start my career pre-COVID. I do want to honor that. But
Mhm.
also you have to know yourself. So a lot of therapy taught me
Mhm.
about what are my strengths, what are my weaknesses, and also more importantly in capitalism, what behavior I will and will not tolerate. You will never find a manager that hits all of those things, but you really need to know what kind of behavior you will and will not tolerate. So, for example, and this is going to sound crazy, and I know this is recorded, I learned very quickly at NetApp in my first 2.5 years that I am not very good at being managed by someone that I'm smarter than. And y'all, that's a good or bad thing, but it was true. A lot of my issues at my first company were me not having the verbal language or the appropriate language to basically be like, I do not want to listen to you because I do not think that you are of value in this conversation. So
Mhm.
a lot of my managers would be like, Lexi doesn't listen and blah, blah, blah. And I would be sitting there, Hunter, like, but I don't think you can spell, right? And so what I learned from that experience, good or bad, was I was like, I need to work for people that I'm like, "Oh, I can learn something from you."
Yeah.
And fun
Right.
fact, since I left that first job, I have never worked for someone that I'm like, "I can't learn anything from you."
Mm.
Because what happens is that Lexi, who's very old but has great skincare, but very old, goes back to that 10-year-old, and that's gonna come out in my performance review.
Mm.
Right? So now I'm like, "Ooh," in the interview, if I feel like I cannot learn something from you in any capacity, right? Um, I don't think it's gonna work out. So to answer your question, you need to go out and you need to find people. You need to do coffee chats on LinkedIn. You're gonna be very surprised the number of leaders who will actually say yes to your coffee chat. Like
Yeah.
they're just out, like it's crazy the number of leaders who will say yes. If you're currently at a company, you'll be very surprised at the leaders that if you just reach out to them on Slack or Teams or whatever chatting platform that you have, they will actually respond. And guess what? If they don't respond, they don't. It
Right.
costs you nothing.
Yeah.
But to start meeting people, because those leaders, they will leave that company and they will go someplace else. But as
Mhm.
you do that, the other portion is you have to identify what you will and will not tolerate from leaders because every person has the right um, to lead how they want to lead. You do not have to align, in my corporate voice with that type of leadership, but you do need to know what type of leadership supports you and you need to go after that.
Yeah. It's so important when you're talking about reaching out to folks. Are you talking about it at other companies that you're not at?
You can
Yeah.
do both. I would
Yeah.
I would if you are new to this, I would first start at the company that you work for.
Mhm.
And it's very simple. "Hey, Hunter, my name is so and so. I just joined the company. I really enjoyed what you said in the meeting, blah. I was wondering if you're available for a virtual coffee chat or if you're in office, if you're available sometime." You will be insanely shocked the number of people that'll be like, "Of course, like talk to my admin and do this," or you know
Yeah.
what, my calendar is open and do this. It's astounding to me the number of people who do not take that step. And then
Yeah.
once you get better at that step, right, you're going to be very surprised that you will be on LinkedIn and you're going to follow someone and you're going to say, I just want to talk to them and send them a note. And you'll be very shocked at them saying yes. And what I always tell people is that if you actually get to that coffee chat, have that conversation, meet Hunter, learn about what Hunter is, always have questions available, give me advice on your career. It can be as very simple and generic as that, and then at the end say, who are 3 people that you think I need to connect with? Because
Yes.
now that you've met Hunter, now you have access to Hunter's whole network. And you will
Yeah.
be shocked if you did this once a week for 6 months how crazy your network is just going to evolve. That's how you meet people.
I'm so glad to hear this. You're reminding me of maybe fragments that I've heard, and I launched a new business this past year, so I need to hear this today. Thank you
Yes,
very much.
congratulations. Yes, that's hard. Entrepreneurship is hard, y'all. But yeah,
Yeah,
yeah.
here we go. It's happening.
Yeah,
And
yeah,
it's awesome. Like, I mean, I'm very grateful. Like here at Power to Fly has been super supportive and like helping me.
yeah.
And it's really great. It's like, this is I mean, I'm so lucky. Like I get to meet so many amazing people and talk to them here. And then people
Mhm.
reach out and I'm just like, it's the same way. Like, it's like, oh, you're doing that. You should definitely talk to this person. Like, I don't know anything about
Yeah.
that. This person does. Yeah.
I literally had a coffee chat with someone at work. This guy reached out to me 2 weeks ago. We finally made it work today. Yesterday was schedules, and I'll never forget. He was like, "I want to know this, this, and this," and I was like, "I have no clue about any of those things,
Right.
but I actually know someone who not only does, but is from the same international city that you are from."
Oh,
And I
nice.
texted that person, and that person was like, "I would love to talk to this human. They have a coffee chat on Friday." Like,
So,
closed mouths do not get fed. And I cannot say that loud enough or as many times enough for people to understand that. I actually am an introvert personally. People don't realize that, but I'm actually an introvert. But closed mouths do not get fed. And when you keep your dreams and you keep your ideas to yourself, they will never come to fruition. So I really, really like, if anything from this conversation with you, is for people to just open up their mouth and ask for what they want. And even if that's as simple as, I would like to meet Hunter, let me slide in his DMs and ask if he's up for that, all the
yeah,
way to, I heard that you are hiring and I want to put my name in the ring. I'm currently
yeah.
hiring right now, and it's crazy to me the number of people who have hit me up on LinkedIn about like, I want this role. Um and I'm just so very, very, very grateful. And a lot of them are actually going to get an interview. And I don't know these people, we're mad at them, right? But like, closed mouths don't get fed. So open up your mouth, say what you want, and just start meeting people. And as you meet them, ask them, can you help me with this? Or do you know someone who can? And then as you're doing that work, please define, why are you at this company? What are you gaining from this experience? Because guess what, folks? They're gaining a lot from you. If
Yeah.
you don't do your job and you don't do it well, there is this anxiety of possibly getting fired. That's how capitalism works. So if they're going to juice stuff out of you, you might as well juice stuff out of them. And I'm just hoping and encouraging that what you juice out of them aligns to your overall goal of liberation and living your best life.
Well, we're out of time. Can't top that. Lexi B, it is such a delight to reconnect. Thank you for making
Yeah,
the time today.
of course.
Just like last time, I feel like enlivened, emboldened, and excited,
Yay.
giddy, all the things from you. So
Yay.
thank you. What's the best way for folks to keep the conversation going with you?
Yeah, the best way is to reach out on LinkedIn. I'm under Lexi B. I may not be the only Lexi B, but I'm the only one that looks like me. So it's very easy to find me. And I would love to connect, and please let me know how I can support your why, because it's a very big thing for me. I'm very passionate about this.
Awesome, awesome, awesome. All right, Lexi B, I will see you on the interwebs.
Yes. Have a good one.
Thanks.
Bye.
Bye.